Hello, welcome back to All for United WFC. As you can see, I said it on the last player profile show, if any of you watched it, that Liberty will be back for another player profile. Little did we know it'll be another Swedish player signing for Manchester United this summer, taking our tally up to 3 now. We started with 1 at the start of the window. We've now got 3, as Fridolina Rolfö is a Manchester United player. I never thought I'd be saying that sentence, by the way. But all the years I've been doing this and doing podcasts and doing tweets, TikToks, and everything else around women's football, I never thought I'd be saying the words that Rolfö is a Manchester United player. That is quite something. But Liberty, firstly, how are you doing over there?
I'm not too bad, thank you. How are you?
Good, yeah, not too bad. It's been a busy couple of days, really. But this kind of came out of nowhere. One of the quickest turnarounds from being reported to being announced on Friday, which was quite something. So, as always, firstly, the first question I always ask on these things is just your initial thoughts on it.
I mean, as you said, this is a signing that sort of I didn't really see coming, but for both United and for Rolfö, I think this is really good. I think it's still a top club in a top league after, obviously, she's just left Barcelona. And she's still a player who, despite being slightly older, has still got bundles of talent and is going to be a really good addition to United in a position where, you know, fans have been crying out for more. And I think that if you're going to get somebody in that position, it's going to be a serial winner, somebody who's been in 5 Champions League finals, won 2 of them. I mean, that's 2 of them? 3 of them? No, 2 of them, I think. But yeah, that's a brilliant signing.
You mentioned in terms of positions there, obviously she's quite versatile, obviously plays off the left. There's been some discussion whether it's going to be left back or left wing. Obviously has played both. Where would you kind of say her best position is, and where do you think she's going to be playing coming into this United side?
I think I would like her to play at just left wing. I think that she got moved to left back when she joined Barcelona, and that's where she's played pretty much her entire time there. And it's a good position for her, but her strongest and best position is left wing. It's the position she's played for Sweden for an absolute number of years now. It's where she played for Wolfsburg and Bayern Munich and Linköping before she joined Barcelona. And I think that it's a position that Manchester United need a player in that has kind of the depth in the wingers, more so than fullback. So I would think and hope she's joining as an out-and-out winger and having the option of her as a fullback if needs must as the season goes on.
I think that's the key thing when I'm looking at it. You know, we don't need a left back for a start. I don't think when you're looking at Gabby George, Hannah Sandberg, Hannah Blundell, we're pretty safe there. I think it's nice that she can cover there as well. We even saw Leah Golson play there at times last season as well. So we've potentially got 5 that could cover the left back. So we're more than fine there. And Janssen, actually, if you want to make it 6, she has played there as well. So plenty of cover there. But left wing, I think, is something that fans have been crying out for when you're looking at, you know, Mallard's kind of played there and Golton as well. But taking that next step and going to the next level, I think, is something that I want to see Mallard more down the middle anyway. And maybe that frees her up more to do that. In terms of equality and things like that, then, if you could, I guess, pinpoint or I guess highlight a couple of her key ones in terms of what she can bring to this United side and this kind of, I guess, her key attributes as a player, what would you say those are?
I think one of the big ones is her ability to burst into space down the wing. I think it's something that has really shone in her game for a number of years. You know, she's a player that likes to get close to the line. She likes to kind of push the defence as much as possible before sending crosses in, which I think is also another really big attribute of hers, in crosses into the box. But I think firstly, her ability to get past defenders down the side, create space for herself, sort of make what looks like a simple run down the wing into something more, because it's easy to run down the wing and get stuck and be like, oh no, where do I go from here? But she kind of makes it into something, whether that's her dribbling into the box, whether it's her, as I said, crossing into the box into somebody to get a head on or things like that. as I said, her cross is also really good. Obviously, when you had players down the middle or even on the right of really high quality, which United do have, that's going to make her job easier, but you also have the quality of the cross to begin with to get somebody on the end of it. And I think that's something that we saw time and time again for her at Barcelona, and also for Sweden, her ability to do that. And also I think when she's in the box, her strike of the ball is exceptional. She's got a lot of power behind it. And I think if you see her, the most important goals of her career as such, I think people think of the Champions League final goal against Wolfsburg, for example. She has so much power behind the ball to get it into the box, which I think is easier said than done, but I think it's something that she should really pride herself on. And I think it's going to be a really big attribute for United to have if they can get her past opposition defenders and have her in the box and have her creating chances.
And I think that's when we were talking, obviously, on the last point about, you know, her position and everything like that. I think that's what United need out wide, particularly on the left. You know, when we were looking at United last season, we were very right side heavy, particularly with relying on Bizet and Jade Riviere to put the crosses in. I think the left side were, you know, Golston and Gabby George. I think they can get to the byline and put a cross in and everything like that, but it didn't have the same. You know, I kept saying last season, United have this habit of playing floaty crosses in, and it's so easy to defend against because it's just like a little chip in the air, and it holds in the air for so long. Turland's got so much work to do to get any power on the header, whereas if you've got somebody, as you just mentioned, who can put the ball in with pace, obviously score with that or put the crosses in, I think that's going to benefit Turland a lot more as well. All the players arriving from midfield as well, coming into the box. Which kind of leads me on to the question in terms of who you think she will link up well with in this United side, whether that's Turland or other players around her, who can really benefit of having someone like her on the left side.
Yeah, definitely Turland and Mallard, whoever's playing down the middle. As you said, I would also like to see Mallard potentially more as well. So I think they will immediately be of benefit. That's not what I mean. They will benefit from Rolfö, that's what I meant. I think her best partnership, I'm going to use Barcelona as an example because it's her most recent club. Her best partnership there was Aitana Bonmati. And I'm not saying that, you know, that's going to be able to be created, but I think somebody like Grace Clinton or Ella Toon sort of in midfield would also really benefit from Rolfö. She can recreate that relationship she had at previous clubs with the midfielders. I think them arriving into the box, her playing them in, if she creates down the wing and then passes into them, also really helpful. And then also Bizet on the other side on the right, or whoever's playing over there, would also help, because if for whatever reason Mallard or Turland doesn't get on her crosses, then having them on the other side to tap them in at the far post or something would also be really beneficial, because as you said, the slight unpredictability with that, if it's going to go to Turland or it ends up at Bizet, you can have a player to knock her crosses in, because that is something we've seen her do time and time again for both, as I said, Barcelona, but also for Sweden. It's something that is quite recreatable. Is that a word? And something I think that United could really, really benefit from.
I think that's. I don't know whether it is a word. Don't quote me on that, but we'll say that it is for now. And I think beneficiary was certainly the word you were looking for a bit earlier, when you were talking about who can benefit off having her off the left hand side. That's for sure. Which kind of leads me on to this, I guess, a little bit of a shorter question, but I guess the some concern is whether she will start or not. I'm fairly sure that she would. I don't think we would be getting a player in like this, as high profile as this, and as quality as she is, and she doesn't start. Would you tend to agree with that she is coming in to start on the left side?
Yeah, I would say so. I think she is, once again, despite her slightly older age, I'm not saying she's old, but in terms of footballers, she's slightly older at 31, and also her injury profile in the last couple of years. She missed quite a lot of the 23-24 season because she had to have knee surgery after the World Cup. So both at her age and that would potentially mean she's not going, not going to start every single game. That's completely not something I can say. But I do think she would start. I think it is, as you said, the level of talent that United need on the left to make her a starter for me. But the thing is then sorry, think of what I was going to say first. Whether if United get to the group stages of the Champions League, that balancing that with league games and stuff, especially, as I said, slightly older age and slightly troublesome injury profile in recent years. But I think 100% I see her as a starter, and I'd honestly be quite surprised if she's not starting left winger come first game of the season.
Yeah, I can't. I dread to think what the online reaction would be if that first team sheet comes in and she's not named in the starting 11. Or it could be one of those cases where she doesn't start the first couple and maybe kind of beds in that way. I'm not too sure, but I would imagine she's going to be a starter for the most part. You've kind of answered one of my questions a little bit there, but I wanted to ask you about it in terms of how big of a concern you reckon the injury record of her is. It's something I've seen a little bit online today when this got announced in terms of not particularly old, but potentially for a footballer, 31, she's probably got a couple more years left, I guess, at the top of her game. But you mentioned a couple of the injuries there as well. How big of a concern is that injury record, or do you think it's not big enough for, not a big enough worry for fans to get too worried about?
I wouldn't be too worried about it. I think it is something to be aware of because it is something that's happened, especially in the last couple of years. But listen, the reason why she had the surgery after the World Cup is because it was one of those cases where she knew she had to have surgery before the World Cup. She decided that it wasn't enough to make her miss the World Cup, so she waited until after the World Cup. How many times am I going to say World Cup? To have the surgery. So I wouldn't say it's too much of a concern. I think last season at Barcelona, Esme Brunks had a really good run at left fullback, so it was slightly more of that is why she didn't play as much rather than her own record or anything. And I also think that United are a very sensible and responsible club. They're not going to be signing a player despite the name and the prestige who's not going to be able to play. So I wouldn't be concerned about it at all. I think if it's well managed and she's managed as a player right, then it's literally not going to be any concern at all.
Yeah, I think that's the thing on that one. It's one to manage, and obviously United wouldn't take that risk if there was a big risk of injury further down the line anyway, with all the checks and the medicals and everything that goes on to a transfer these days. You mentioned a little bit there in terms of her profile, and I guess that's the one thing I've noticed with this transfer. Obviously, engagement's not a massive thing to go by when you're signing a player, but certainly this, as I've seen today from United accounts and everything else, this is obviously a high-profile name, particularly in the women's game as well. But I think it's a name that maybe people who don't follow women's football know as well. How big of a statement, I guess, do you think this is by United to get a player like this? I think it's, again, and I kind of said this at the start of the show, that it's a name that not many fans were thinking of, really. It kind of came out of nowhere a little bit. But in terms of that side of things, in terms of, I guess, the statement, and I've seen opposition fans stay going, hang on a minute, how have United pulled this off, getting a player like that? Do you think it is that kind of signing, that kind of, I guess, big statement one of the summer?
Yeah, I think so. I think I've now done 3 of these player profiles with you, and I think they've gone up in terms of statement. And that's not a slight on the other 2 players, because Sandberg was a player coming straight out of Sweden, so people didn't know who she was. And Zigotti, people were aware of her because she'd been in the WSL, but then sort of went slightly quiet, as we spoke about last time. But this is a player that is not well known for as I said, the winner against Wolfsburg in the Champions League final, some incredible performances for Sweden. This is a name that people are well aware of. Even if they don't follow European football leagues. She's a player that's been around, and a name that's been around for a long time. And I think this is a statement that for United, that they aren't afraid to have a player like this. I think sometimes clubs shy away from big names because there's a lot of pressure and stuff. But I think United are well aware and well prepared for that. They know what she's going to bring. They know what they can do with her as well. And I think in comparison, like the last true statement of intent from United was when they signed Mallard permanently because of the club she was coming from. And also she's a very excellent player. Let's not get that wrong. But I think there was a part of that was like she's coming permanently from Lyon after her loan. That's a big name. That's a big player from a big club. And then similar things happen here where people are looking at the Barcelona name and thinking, wow, this is really serious. And I think that this is something that United are going to absorb and use because I think they are aware of what she can do and what she's going to bring. And also, it's a statement of intent. It's going, okay, we aren't mucking about anymore. We're not here to sort of just play games. Like, we have real intent in the league, in Champions League, in getting to another FA Cup final, maybe next May, or Subway Cup final come the new year. I think this is United saying we're with the big boys now as such, and I respect them for it a lot.
No, I certainly agree, actually. And that kind of leads me on to my last kind of question before we do the usual rating out of 10 in terms of a player of this experience. You mentioned the Champions League there as well, and the trophies that she's won. She mentioned that in her signing piece as well about bringing that success that she's had at previous clubs to United as well. United are a relatively young squad in terms of the players that are coming through, and I think you look at the 2 players so far that United have signed. I think it adds. We spoke about this on the Zagotti one, the last one that you were on, in terms of that Champions League experience, bringing it across. Do you think that's what's, I guess, added an added beneficial trait of hers, that she's been there, done it, won the thing as well in terms of Champions Leagues, but also all around Europe she's played and have those experiences to, I guess, pass on to some of the younger players that, last time United didn't make it into the Champions League at group stage, it was back then, it'll be the league phase this time around. From that point of view, that as well, having that experience to pass on to those kind of players.
100%. Also, I need to stop saying Champions League group stage. I'm gonna have to train my brain. 100%. It's a player that's literally won 2 of them. It's a player that has been in 5 finals, as I said, back to being with Wolfsburg as well. I think that there is a lot of United, a very talented squad, but there is a lot of young players who have either only played in 1 league, 2 leagues, also kind of like max, and also players that have some of these players, their only Champions League experience was those PSG games. So for a player who's played group stage, which will be league stage games, knockouts, which goes up a notch, 100% goes up even more, got to finals, won that final single-handedly for her team, is a player that can say to younger players or players that have not been in that position, here's what that's like, here's what we are going to do as United to get there. Because it's easier. It's one thing when a manager says, here's the steps we're going to take. But for a player to have that experience and go, here's what I did in that situation, but also here's how I felt and here's how I'm going to help you, is massively important to a club, especially a club trying to get to sort of proper stages for the first time, such the league stage as it will be for United. And it's a player that, can guide the younger players / players that haven't been in that position before, but also it's not just Champions League. She's done it for, domestic cups as well, won trophies in domestic situations. For United to, as I say, get back to another FA Cup final, get to Subway Cup final as such, go far in the league. It's a player that's literally done that season after season after season, basically, like, decently her whole career. I don't think there's not been a season since she was at Wolfsburg where she hadn't won a trophy, because Wolfsburg won the sort of their domestic cup for 10 years in a row, so she would have won all of those as well. And I think that is an underrated side that she brings to United, to be able to guide players without that experience, to do it even more so than Zigotti would bring, even though she also would bring that. I think this is a player who's also a serial winner at this point as well. I think that's also going to be massively helpful for when United have difficult games, when they have Chelsea at the weekend, when they have City at the weekend, Arsenal at the weekend. Yeah.
I think it's that balance, isn't it, between having a young squad and an experienced squad, and just having, you know, that's fine to have, and you can still win things with that. But having those players dotted around, you know, potentially Janssen at the back and Rolfö on the left, you know, into the left wing as well, and you put Zigotti in the middle, and you've kind of starting to get a feel of where players, like I said, played all around Europe and have those different experiences as well, and won at different in different nations as well, which I think is massively important. When we're looking at some of the other people coming through, because when I mention the youngsters, I'm not necessarily talking about people who are like 17, 18, 19. You know, you could be 23, 20, 22, 23, but if you've only played in the one league, as Liberty said, and kind of, you know, in terms of that inexperience in latter stages of the bigger tournaments, then, you know, that's kind of a valuable thing that she can bring as well, which I think is good to see. Right, in terms of the rating, and I wonder whether you're going to go higher or lower than what I don't think you're going to go lower, but whether you're going to go higher than what you have done previously with these ones. If you could rate the signing out of 10.
I'm so conscious of the, I've said 8 for both times now. I'm like, do you want me to split them as before? Sorry, can I?
Yeah, you can split it from the player's point of view and the club's point of view if you want.
For a club's point of view, I'm going to say 9. I think that, as I've now said at length in this episode, she's a player with extreme experience, versatility, talent. She's literally been there, done that, got the T-shirt, got the trophy for it. I think that this is a really brilliant signing for United that could unlock a next level that I think they haven't been able to unlock in previous seasons, even down to when they pushed Chelsea to the title 2 seasons ago. Yeah, 2 seasons ago? Yeah.
22, 23, yeah.
Oh, I don't know what year it is anymore. Yeah. For her, I'm also going to say 9, actually. I think that it's a club with good ambition. It's a club in a very good league. She said the best league in the world. I think most people say that at this point. It's a team, a consistent top 4-5 team, which I think is brilliant. It's a team that has true intent and true want to be at the top. It's a team that's now got to 3 FA Cup finals, which is massive. And I think it's a team that's really looking to take that next step to make it more finals than just an FA Cup. And I think for her, at this stage in her career, it's a really good move. And she's going to bring her leadership, her experience to a new club, a new league, where she's going to test herself all over again. So for both player and club, I'm going to say 9, which is different than before.
I know it's getting higher. We need to find I don't think any player has ever been a 10 that we've ever signed. It might maybe I gave Turland a 10 when she signed because it was a player that I'd wanted at United for years. So I think I gave Turland a 10 on that one. But we've not had many higher than a 9. So yeah, I think that's good. I would probably give it a 9 as well. I think obviously we'll wait and see how she does. If she can stay fit, United have got one hell of a player. But obviously we'll wait and see how that develops as well. I think it's important getting her in now as well because the Champions League qualifiers are a couple of weeks away from a United point of view, which we will be seeing Liberty on again for because it is extremely likely United will be playing Hammarby. There we go. First mention of Hammarby in this 24 and a half minutes that we've been recording.
Erling, if you're watching, that one was for you.
We had to get it in some. I'm sure Erling tweeted us actually when I said you were coming on again. So, there you go, Erling. You had a shout out on one of the shows now. So, but yes, I'm sure. Obviously, when we come to play PSV and likely Hammerby in that mini mini tournament at the end of this month. You know, it's important to have her in then as well. So yeah, she'll have a preseason game before then and into the squad. But yeah, we are delighted. Fridolina Rolfö is a Manchester United player, so that's great to see. On to the next one now, hopefully as well. I said at the end of the last one, we'll like to see Liberty again. I'm going to say it again just in case there's another player that's is a potential expert on as well to talk us all through that one. If you want to follow Liberty, I believe, because I've done that many shows with you now, it is literally just your name on every platform, right? And you have a little, you say the same thing as well when I ask you this question, and Barry does on WOFO as well. That it's just a guy's name with an S on the end, right? There we go.
It's just the boy's name with an S on the end, and it's also pronounced like the boy's name with an S on the end. A lot of people say Simmons, but it's not. It's Simons, like Simon Cowell.
Of all the Simons you could have picked. To be fair, that probably is the first one that comes to mind. I was trying to think of another one then, but there we go. So make sure you follow him, Liberty, on absolutely every platform as well. If you're new around here, make sure you're liking this video and subscribe it if you haven't already. Our live shows are back as well, so make sure you've got your notifications on all those things. All of our platforms are all for United WFC, and we shall see you guys in the next one.